Dear students, in this video we will continue with the chapter The Solid State Part 2. These are the topics covered in Part 1. We saw the general characteristics of solid state, differences between amorphous and crystalline solids. We looked at the classification of crystalline solids and applications of important solids. Now, having said about crystalline solids, what is that one important characteristic feature of crystalline solid you can think of? This picture of a crystalline solid shows a disciplined arrangement of constituent particles. It is this regular and repeating pattern of constituent particles which is an important feature that makes any solid crystalline in nature. To begin with, let's see what is a crystal lattice or a space lattice, which means the same. This diagram here represents a portion of a crystal lattice where every blue point represents a constituent particle. These particles are arranged three-dimensionally in space. Now, the constituent particle we refer to could either be an atom, ion, or a molecule. With this, let's see the definition of crystal lattice. A crystal lattice is a regular three-dimensional arrangement of points in space. Points, we mean to say constituent particles. And every point in a crystal lattice is called lattice point. Also, if you have a look at the diagram, you can see a cube that has been shaded. And this portion is called unit cell. Now, the next concept is unit cell. What is meant by a unit cell? Unit cell is the smallest portion of a crystal lattice, which when repeated in different direction generates the entire lattice. And we can also call a unit cell as a fundamental building block. This unit cell, as you can observe, has 6 parameters. It has 3 edges A, B and C and 3 angles alpha, beta and gamma. Alpha is an angle between B and C, beta is an angle between A and C, gamma is an angle between A and B. With this idea, let's move in understanding the types of crystal system. Based on the 6 parameters, that is, based on the values of alpha, beta, gamma and the edges A, B and C, we have a total of 7 types of crystal system. Now, it's time to have a look at each of these systems. To begin with, we have a cubic system where the A, B and C, they are equal to one another, they are of the same length. Alpha, beta, gamma are equal to 90 degree. Cubic is the first crystal system. The second type is a tetragonal system where we can see that A and B are equal to one another, but they are not equal to C. Alpha, beta and gamma are however equal to 90 degree. Moving to the third type of a crystal system, that is orthorhombic. In this case, we see that the angles alpha, beta and gamma are equal to 90 degree. However, the sides A, B and C are not equal to one another. Moving to the fourth crystal system, that is a hexagonal crystal system where you see that alpha and beta, these are equal to 90 degree. However, gamma is equal to 120 degree. And we can see that A and B, these are equal to one another, but it is not equal to C. Now, moving to rhombohedral, which is the fifth crystal system where A, B and C, all the 3 sides are equal and you can see alpha, beta and gamma. These angles are not equal to 90 degree. Alpha, 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 let's consider them as alpha, beta and gamma. With our understanding, these are not equal to 90 degree. Moving to monoclinic system, where A, B, C, all the three are not equal to one another. Alpha and gamma are equal to 90 degree, but beta angle is not equal to 90 degree. Moving to the last crystal system, that is triclinic, where A, B and C, all the three are not equal to one another, and alpha, beta and gamma are also not equal to one another. These angles are not equal to one another, nor are they equal to 90 degree. So, having a look at all the crystal systems together, we have a total of 7 crystal system: cubic, tetragonal, orthorhombic, hexagonal, rhombohedral, monoclinic and triclinic. And these are based on the values of A, B and C and the angles alpha, beta and gamma. Now we will proceed to the types of unit cell. A unit cell is broadly classified into two types as primitive unit cell and centered unit cell. Primitive unit cell, students, it's also called simple unit cell. Now centered unit cell is further classified into three types as body centered unit cell, face centered unit cell and end centered unit cell. We will now look at each of these. This is the first kind of a unit cell where you can observe all the corners, all the 8 corners in this unit cell are occupied by constituent particle, right? Such a unit cell where all the corner positions are occupied by constituent particles is called a primitive unit cell or a simple unit cell. So, in this case, the constituent particles are present only at the corners of the unit cell. Now, what if the constituent particles are present not only at the corners but also at positions other than the corners? Then we call them as centered unit cell. These are present not only at the corners but also at positions other than the corners. Such a unit cell is a centered unit cell, and it's time to have a look at each of these. Now this one here is called a body centered unit cell. You can see that all 8 corners are occupied by the constituent particles, and at the center of the unit cell, that is at the center of the body, you are able to view a constituent particle. So the constituent particles are present at the corners and at the center of the body. Such a unit cell is called body centered unit cell. Now let's have a look at the second type, that is, in this case you can see that all 8 corners have been occupied by constituent particle, and this unit cell has how many faces? If you can count, 1 above and 1 below and 4 on the 4 sides there. So you can see a total 6 phases. At the center of every 6 phase you can see a constituent particle. So constituent particles are present at the corners and at the center of each phase. Then you will call them as face centered unit cell. And moving to the last type, that is called end centered unit cell. Now this one can also be called as a base centered unit cell, and here constituent particles are present at the corners as well as it is present at the center of any two opposite face. It is present at the center of any two opposite face. So we covered all the types of unit cell, and this classification is based on the position of constituent particles, right? This was nothing to do with the 6 parameters now. we spoke about it based on the position of constituent particle. Now, let's, for our, ease of understanding, I'm going to denote primitive unit cell as P and body-centered unit cell as B, face-centered unit cell as F, and end-centered unit cell as E. This is for our ease of understanding the next part. So now we know based on the parameters, 6 parameters, 7 crystal systems are there, and based on the position of constituent particles, we have a total of 4 unit cell. To begin with, primitive unit cell and then the 3 centered unit cell. Total 4 unit cells are there. So now we are going to see in the next part that if you take a particular crystal system, does it have all the variations? Does it have all unit cell belonging to its category? You will understand it as we proceed now. Now this is a chart which gives you a lot of information. To start with, you can see in the first column crystal system. Let's take the first one, cubic crystal system. And as we discussed, edge lengths are A, B, C, all 3 are equal, and angles alpha, beta, gamma are equal to 90 degree. Now, if I can think of the possible variation, if you can think of the possible variation for a cubic crystal system, then we will come to that. Let's have a look at the tetragonal crystal system now. A is equal to B but not equal to C. Alpha, beta and gamma are equal to 90 degree. And then we have orthorhombic, where all the 3 edges are unequal and alpha, beta, gamma are equal to 90 degree. So in a cubic, tetragonal and orthorhombic crystal system, you can clearly see all the angles here are equal to 90 degree, right? And when you have a look at the length, A, B, C is equal in the first case. A is equal to B, not equal to C. And in the third case, all the 3 are not equal to one another. Now, possible variation. I told you there are 4 types of unit cell. But when we talk of a cubic crystal system, the only possible variations are 3. We have primitive kind of variation, primitive unit cell. We have body-centered unit cell and face-centered unit cell, P, B and F. So we have a total 3 there. But we do not have the end-centered unit cell. Correct? We have only these 3 variations that are possible. And examples you can see there, sodium chloride, zinc blende, copper. These are a few examples belonging to cubic crystal system. Now let's move to tetragonal. Here the only 2 possible variations are primitive and body-centered unit cell. And in a orthorhombic case, the only possible variations are, all the 4. You can see primitive, body-centered, face-centered as well as end-centered unit cell. Example for a tetragonal. We have white tin, stannic oxide, titanium oxide, calcium sulfate. These are examples. And for an orthorhombic crystal system, we have rhombic sulfur, potassium nitrate, barium sulfate. These are the examples. Okay, so now let's have a look at the possible variations. Here we have 3, here we have 2, 5 and here we have 4. Totally we have 9 right now. Moving to the 4th crystal system. Now you're getting an idea as to where we are heading towards. So now we have hexagonal crystal system. Edge length A and B are equal but not equal to C, and angles alpha beta are equal to 90 degree. Gamma is equal to 120 degree. Talking about a trigonal or a rhombohedral system, ABC are equal, alpha beta gamma are equal but not equal to 90 degree. And then we have a monoclinic system where all the 3 sides ABC are not equal, alpha, gamma are equal to 90 degree and beta is not equal to 90 degree. It's time to now have a look at possible variations. Hexagonal, we see only primitive unit cell. In a trigonal or a rhombohedral case, only primitive unit cell. But in a monoclinic, we can see a primitive and an end-centered unit cell. So, in the previous case, we had 9 and here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 9 and 4, right? So, we have 13 already. Having a look at the last crystal system, that is the triclinic, A, B, C are not equal to one another. Alpha, beta and gamma are not equal to 90 degree. Possible variations, as you can see, we have only primitive unit cell. So what are the examples? So let's just have a look at the examples which we missed out. In case of a hexagonal crystal system, graphite, zinc oxide, cadmium sulfide are examples. In case of a rhombohedral, we can see there calcium carbonate and mercury sulfide, cinnabar, it's also called, is an example. And in case of a monoclinic sulfur, sodium sulfate, decahydrate, these are the examples. Also talking about the triclinic system, potassium dichromate, and we have H3BO3, boric acid, copper sulfate, pentahydrate. These are examples of, the triclinic crystal system. So 7 crystal system and we saw all possible variations and we could see that all put together there are 14 possible variations. So kindly have a look. 7 crystal system based on the values of angles and edges, and we have, these are the possible variations. So you can see again, in a cubic system you have a simple unit cell, a body centered and a face centered. All of these are cubic. Okay. Then in case of a tetragonal, we have a simple where all of them should be at the corners, right? And body centered where corners and including the center of the body. These are the 2 variations possible. In case of a orthorhombic system, we can see that we have simple, we have body centered, we have base centered or end centered and also face centered, all the 4. Then in case of a rhombohedral, we can see that there is only primitive. Hexagonal, again we have only primitive, all corners are occupied. Then in case of a monoclinic system, you can see that we have a simple, that is primitive, and we have a base centered monoclinic, and triclinic again we have only primitive. So let's count all the system together there. So we have unit cells 1, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 crystal systems. That is, we have 7 crystal system, but possible variations when we put them together and then count them, a total possible variation, total lattice system possible are 14. So let's now have a look at this. Corresponding to 7 crystal systems, there are 14 lattices. And who observed this? A French mathematician by name Auguste Bravais. And so these 14 lattices are called Bravais lattices. Clear? So we have a total of 14 Bravais lattices. Now we will move in understanding the number of atoms in a unit cell. What are you able to see here is a crystal lattice, and the shaded portion is the unit cell. Now in this case you can see that all the corners of that unit cell are occupied. So it looks like there are 8 atoms in this unit cell. But that is not true, because one corner atom is being shared between other unit cell as well. So you cannot say that the whole atom belongs to just the shaded portion of that unit cell there, right? So it can belong to other unit cell also. So we may have to consider only that portion which belongs to a given unit cell. That's our idea now. So let's take up 3 different cases. We are going to see, in case of primitive cubic unit cell, what portion of an atom belongs to body-centered cubic unit cell and face-centered cubic unit cell. So we are taking a cubic unit cell and 3 types: primitive, body-centered and face-centered. So dear students, let's take the primitive cubic unit cell. What is a primitive cubic unit cell? You can see that all the angles alpha, beta, gamma should be equal to 90 degree and A, B, C are equal. Okay. And you can see that the 8 corners have the constituent particles. But these 8 atoms do not belong entirely to the unit cell. So we cannot say that there are a total of 8 atoms in this unit cell, because they all do not belong to that one unit cell. To understand this in a better way, we can consider this diagram where you can see here there is a corner atom that has been represented beautifully. You can see this is that corner atom, okay, which belongs, or maybe you can see here there is a cube that has been beautifully lined in some shade of red orange color. So we are talking about that unit cell, this unit cell, and there is a corner atom. What we are able to see is that that corner atom does not belong to only the colored unit cell. See, it is been shared between 8 other unit cell. See here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that atom, this particular atom, belongs to all the numbered unit cell that you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also it belongs to the unit cell a layer below it, that is 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that corner atom has been shared between 8 other unit cell. So 1/8 portion of the atom is all that belongs to a unit cell, right? The entire atom does not belong to the unit cell. Only 1/8 portion of the unit, of that atom belongs to that unit cell. Getting that? Now it's time to calculate. So the number of atoms per unit cell. Which unit cell we are talking about? We are talking about a primitive or a simple cubic unit cell where we have atoms at all the corners. And from our understanding, corner atom, only 1/8 portion of it belongs to the unit cell. So if only 1/8 portion of an atom belongs, how many such atoms are there? There are 8 such atoms. So 1/8 of every 8 atom at the corner, should be a part of a given unit cell. So what will you get? 1. So to, make it a little more clear, if you take a primitive cubic unit cell, all the 8 corners have constituent particle. So it feels like 8 atoms belong to a unit cell. But it is not true, because atom at the corner has been shared between 8 other unit cell. So logically only 1/8 portion of an atom which is at the corner belongs to a given unit cell. So 1/8 of this, 1/8 of this, 1/8 of this, 1/8 of this and the other 4 which are there, all of it ka 1/8 portion only belongs to the given unit cell. That's why we take 8 atoms at the corner, multiply it with 1/8 and you get 1. So if we ask how many atoms are present in a primitive cubic unit cell, your answer should be 1 and not 8. Clear? Now let's proceed to body-centered cubic unit cell. This is a body-centered cubic unit cell where you can see that all the corners are occupied by the constituent particles, and at the center of the body you have an atom right over here. So the other way of looking at it, what did we say? Only 1/8 portion, correct? So you can see only a piece of a portion of an atom that belongs to a particular unit cell. So only 1/8 portion. So when you take all the corner atom put together, the total what you get will be 1. Okay, keep that aside. And you have one atom at the center. See, an atom which is at the center of a unit cell is not shared with any other unit cell. It belongs entirely to that given unit cell. So we are not going to count a portion of it, rather the whole of it belongs to that unit cell. With this idea, the number of atoms per unit cell calculation should go like this. How many corner atoms are there? 8. How many corner atoms are there? 8. And what portion of it will belong? Only 1/8. So 1/8 into 8 atoms at the corner. Then how many atom at the center? 1 atom at the center. Does it get divided or is it being shared with any other unit cell? Not really. So 1 atom at the body center. So 1/8 into 8 plus 1 will give you what? 2. So it feels like there are 8 atom and 1. So 9 atoms are there in the unit cell. But not true. When you calculate counting the sharing, then you would say that there are only 2 atoms in a body-centered cubic unit cell. Hope that's clear. Now moving to the last one, that is the face-centered cubic unit cell, where you can see that 8 corners have constituent particles and center of every 6 face has a constituent particle. So just like this, okay, we can see only a part of that. Now, if you can understand this, the atom at the center, which is present at the center right over here, okay, is shared between 2 unit cell, right or not? So the atom at the center will be shared between 2 unit cell. So if we are to consider a unit cell in this way roughly, and if there is another unit cell, combining like this here, okay, now if there is an atom right at the center this way, okay, that is if you are talking about this unit cell, center of every 6 face there is a constituent particle. Now I have taken only one face and a constituent particle. It is getting shared between 1 and 2. It is getting shared between 2 unit cell. So only half portion of that atom really belongs to a given unit cell. That's why we could take half of the atom, right? Half of the atom. Let's have a look at the calculation part. Number of atoms per unit cell in a face-centered cubic unit cell. Okay. First is we have 8 atoms at the corner as we did earlier. Only 1/8 portion of it is belonging and we know how it is. However, how many atoms are there at the face center? 6 atoms are there. Each atoms, how many portion belongs to a unit cell? Only half. So half of 6. So 1/8 of the, into 8 and 1/2 into 6. That's going to give you a 4. Right? So we have a total of only 4 atoms that should be taken into account in a in a face-centered cubic unit cell. So, what is the total number of atoms in any unit cell that we talk about right now? Here, primitive unit cell, 1, right? And then we spoke of the body-centered cubic unit cell. How many? 2. Then we have the face-centered cubic unit cell. We have 4. So remember this. In case of a primitive, 1. That is in case of a simple. In case of a body-centered, 2. And in case of face-centered, it's 4. Even without calculating, you should know that 1 in body-centered, 2 in case of, 1 in primitive, 2 in a body-centered and 4 in a face-centered. Okay, this has to be clear. So with this, we will end the video here. Thank you, students.